Well, hello once again. We are back to the leaf spring, and we need to get that bolt out of the center of that bushing, and get the bushing out as much as possible so I can get this hanger off both of the leaf springs and get them de-rusted. I want to have them in pretty good shape. It's going to take a while. So, you know, last time I mentioned, geez, what am I going to do? Well, I got a bunch of inputs from everybody, and I had thought of everything that you all had mentioned, with the exception of our good subscriber up in the northern part of Arkansas here, Johnny Umpers. He recommended and offered the use of I think he said he had a 20-ton press. He said I could take them up there and we could press them out. Well, that would work great. But I think there might be another method, and it was mentioned by one of our good subscribers. I had thought about it, and today was the day I was going to give it a try anyway. So when he mentioned it, I said, one other method was to heat that bolt, get it as hot as I can, and that would eventually cause it to come loose down through the other side. The problem with that was it begins to melt the rubber, smoke the rubber, it gets stinky, smelly, gooey crap. We don't need that, okay? Don't need it. And a sledgehammer, just take it and put a nut on the end of it, I guess, and just take a 3-pound sledge and keep banging it till it comes out, you know, brute force type. I'm not too keen on that idea either. I'm already tired from taking all this crap out of the car here. So here's the method that I had thought about, and I'm going to give it a shot. I mean, if it doesn't work, then we can always use both the heat and the sledgehammer, and we'll get it out sooner or later. It's going to come out. Don't you worry. It always, no problems. It's a piece of cake. Let me show you the method that I went ahead and opted for. Of all the methods, this one seems to be the least labor intensive, and I think the more likely to succeed, and it'll be the least messy. What we're going to do is we are going to take this drill bit and we're going to drill down several places all the way down. This drill bit will go down far enough that I can loosen up that bolt pretty good to where I think it'll come out the other side. And if I have to, I can switch to an even larger, fatter drill bit that I have and go down through one of the holes we drilled. So let me put a few holes around there and see what happens. Matter of fact, I'll let you see me start on one of them. Apparently it's just soft rubber all the way down. We'll just get it down there until she wobbles around loose. I drilled down as much as I could. I didn't spend a whole lot of time in there reaming out black rubber, but a lot of it came out. It took a little more drilling. I didn't quite get out as much as I should have. It took out a couple of larger chunks. The whole job so far has only taken about maybe 6-7 minutes. I flipped the spring over and I now have the vice grips on the screw, and it seems to be pretty darn loose. Maybe I can get it loose on camera without using both hands. Let's find out. No, she doesn't want to quite cooperate yet. Well, something just isn't according to Hoyle here. I mean, look at this bolt. It just wobbles around completely. It should just practically fall out of the other side all by itself. Right, like so. There has to be some kind of there has to be an inner lip like this right here on the other side. I have figured out the problem. Here's the problem. I thought there was a disc under here like this that would pop out once I started, you know, hammering from the other side. But you'll notice now that I cleaned off some of this crap here and paid more attention, there is none. So what that means is the bolt would have had to come out from this side going in that direction. I'm doing it in this direction because that's the only nut that would come off. So what's happening is on the other side of this hanger, that bolt has that lip, and that lip is hitting against, this is a 2-piece deal, by the way. Let me see if you can see it right here. See, it's a 2-layer. It's hitting against this layer right here, and it won't come through. So what do we do now? It won't come through because the lip is there. Had I been able to get this one off first, it would have been, the thing would have fallen out practically on its own. So what do we do now? That's a very good question. The next method we're going to use, that's the old world famous Sawzall. If you look down in there, you can see that lip. Let me focus in there. See that lip down there? Yeah. That lip is what was keeping it from coming out this way. So what we're going to do is we're going to whack that baby off down this way pull that bolt off, and then it should come out. Hopefully. Well, that brilliant idea didn't work either, as suspected. These bolts are hardened steel. There's no way, some little old saw blade with a sawzall is going to cut through that mess. So what's our next option? Well, let me try one more thing. I do have an ultimate solution if need be. I hate to go through it, but if I need to do it, I will. As expected, I was able to get it off. I knew I would. But it's what I would consider to be a successful failure or a failed success, whichever you prefer. And what happened was this hanger that holds the spring on that end is a two-piece affair, but it was welded together with spot welds like that. And in the process of me monkeying around and banging and doing a bunch of other things, I broke the 3 spot welds. Now there's one there, one there, one there. That's just tiny little spot welds that held it in place. So, and I never did get the bolt out. It's amazing, huh? But not a problem. I have a friend who's a welder who will fix me right up. Also, he has an acetylene torch which will take that bolt out of there, and we will continue to march. Now, what's our next problem? There's always a problem waiting around the bend. This bolt right here. This is the nut. The bolt comes through from the other side. It holds these 2 halves together. These babies right here, top and bottom, that have the pad, this is what they call center pads, holds them all in place. But man, is that thing rusty also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to store this thing the next couple days in this position with a good amount of liquid wrench in there. See if I can't get that thing to soak up. I'll come out a couple more times, soak it up, just spray it down, let it soak up. Maybe we'll get lucky. If not, we're going to have to apply the heat to that one. Once I realized that this thing has a ledge on it on both ends, not just one, and that ledge is keeping that thing from coming out of there. It just won't come out no matter how much you beat on it or heat it up or whatever, no matter what you do. It's loose, but it won't come all the way out. I was a couple of threads short of getting it completely off. But once I realized that ledge was there, then I had to change tactics completely. And after only 3 or 4 minutes work, let me back up here and show you what's going on. This is our second one. Oh, come on, stay still, baby. Well, that's it. All I have to do now is figure out how to get this hanger loose from the 2 rubber bushing ends, and that'll take care of this one, no problem at all. I can start derusting it right away. But my old buddy Joe the welder is going to have to help me on this one. What I did to make it easier on the second one, I put the nut and that big round retainer back on the other side. I just reinstalled it, tightened it up really tight, and then went back to the side that was not coming loose. And I kept playing with it and playing with it with a 3/4 inch box end wrench. And I'd tighten up the right hand side, the original one that came off. Every time it tried to come loose a little bit, I'd crank it on down. Finally, I got a little bit of movement out of the nut on the opposite side that would never come off. Once I got a little bit of movement, I began rocking the wrench back and forth. The old wrench rock business. Lots of liquid wrench. Just rock it forward, back and forth. Maybe 1/8 of a turn is all I gained each time I did that. And if it moved the bolt and it loosened it up on the other side where I had it tight, I'd crank it tight again. And I just kept doing that back and forth, back and forth. Less than 10 minutes I had the thing out. I couldn't believe it. I said, geez, if I'd only known that when I did the other one, but I did not know there was a collar there. I really thought I could just, take it right on out of there. Live and learn again. For Ford to use a bolt like this for that larger bushing and the hanger. Now, hardened steel bolt, no problem. I understand that. You don't want that thing bending. However, to put one with threads on both ends, that was a stupid idea. That was really a dumb idea. They should have had a head on one end and a nut on the other. Would have made life so much easier for the, the people that ever have to change them, the mechanics, anybody. With that in mind, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the old attaching parts from Eaton Detroit Spring. And we're going to go over here, we're going to click on select our product. Again, it will be bolts. And Now we're looking for spring eye bolts. Now that loop on the end of each end of the spring is called an eye. So this is a spring eye bolt, which is what we want. And there it is right there. This is a front eye bolt. It's 5 inches long, which it is. And I believe this is the one that only has the head on one end and the threaded end on the other. And apparently it does not come with a flange nut. I may have to buy some, but they're $10.75 a piece, probably because they are still hardened steel. It's the next day. It's Saturday and the temperature is 70 degrees. I am going to take advantage of it. Tomorrow the temperature goes to 60, and then that'll be the end of the reasonably warm temperatures for a while. So I've already cleaned out the inside of the housing, got rid of all that oil and gunk and crap, and now we're going to give it a good blasting with the power washer, and maybe we can come up with something halfway decent so I can start de-rusting. The old power washer didn't do a whole lot of good. I had to take a putty knife and do most of the scraping to get the 52 years of oil and dirt and grime and crap that's collected on that thing. Sitting on top of your axle is this little thing right here. It's the air vent for the rear end, and it has a rubber hose around it with a clamp, as you can see, and then they break off after a while. There's a little tiny hole in the center. You got to make sure that hole is clear, otherwise it can't get air to do what it's supposed to do, or so it can churn the oil around, that sort of thing. And so I'm going to have to break loose this clamp right here and take that baby off. Just use a pair of pliers. This rubber hose that broke off runs up underneath the bottom of the car, up into a space underneath the trunk. You don't see it, but it's hanging down right now, and I'll have to just put a brand new one in. It's just standard old, I think it's just standard old vacuum line type hose. And what I did here was I took these pliers and I got around it, and as you can see, I got it broken loose. She doesn't want to quite come off yet though, so what I have to do now is take a little screwdriver and kind of pop, sort of tap it on into the space there, or even any space. There's a smaller area over here I could tap it into, just to kind of get the slack I need to take it off. Now, if in the process you found or if yours is like rusted so bad, that little vent pipe there, if it breaks off, you can buy new ones. Okay, don't worry about it. That's all there is to it. Just make sure, if you ever have, it doesn't matter what axle, I think they all have at least some kind of a vent in the old days. I don't know if they have them in the new ones. And when you paint this thing, I want to make sure I don't clog the hole up with paint. Tape it off good, okay? Well, that's it for today. I'm getting a little bushed. I got to go in the house, fix something to eat for wifey. I gave it an initial hand wire brushing. Knocked off as much of the surface rust as I could. Tomorrow we'll go ahead and try the old drill with the wire brushes. I got 3 different kinds. We'll just get off as much as we can. The only problem I'm really going to have is down inside these brackets that hold the that mount to the leaf springs. They're really in bad shape as far as rust goes. The only thing I can do on that is, I don't know, maybe I can, I don't know. I guess I'll have to worry about it when the time comes. Well, it's the next day again, and after deep and profound cogitation last night, I decided that maybe, this here is going to be the hardest part of the axle rust removal, as I said. Are we going to be able to get every bit of rust off this thing? No. We're going to do our very best to get as much as possible, and then we're going to let old man Rust-Oleum Primer handle the rest. I mean, it's already, 200% better than it was, or more. So what I've decided that the best way to knock off this rust under here is use the old moto tool with a grinding stone. I can get up in there to about right in there, and then maybe hit some of it from the other side, which I doubt. But I'm going to do the best I can. I want to knock off as much as I can, and then give it a wire brushing. I have a couple of very small toothbrush size wire brushes, and we're just going, like I said, we're just going to do the best we can. Now look, one caution on this right here is a lot of this axle was welded together. See, it's all welded here, it's welded here, it's welded here and here. These are welded on. This came in many pieces. This was welded on all the way around after it was molded or, you know, stamped out. Same thing on the other end. You got to be careful. There's very, very sharp edges when you work on a rear end, an axle. You can, in the process of, you know, wiping your hand back and forth trying to get rust off, or just even wiping off oil, that there's like a little knife. That there is just a sharp little point that was caused when the welder did it. So I'm going to grind that off. I'm going to go around and grind off. There's little bumps everywhere too. See that little bump right there? And that's a welding bump. Those little bumps are everywhere, all over this thing. There's another one right there. Flash, welding flash is what it is. We're going to grind them as many as we can off. There's another one right there. They're everywhere. We're going to do what we can to make it look a little bit better, as well as remove rust. So let's get started. Let me see here. I'll probably wind up going through every one of my grinding stones, but I don't care. We're making some pretty good progress. We're about 80% done, 85% done. I'm doing this last part right here. She's cleaning up pretty good. And then, of course, I have my ever-present little pal over there, Buddy. He comes running all the way out here. He'll sit there all day and just watch me. We've reached the point where it's time to put the navel jelly on, so that's what I'm going to do. And I think I'll just put it on the pumpkin first. And see how that goes. You know, it's going to get as much off as it can. What it can't get, it's not going to get. And that's what we're going to have to live with. I'm not going to... This is not a restoration. Remember, this is a refurbishment. I want to keep repeating that. If this was a restoration, I'd be spending millions of dollars on it, you know, and having it sandblasted, and I don't know, I might have it chromed, and you know, all this other jazz that guys do. But this is just a restoration or a refurbishment, so we're just basically cleaning it up, making it safe to drive, making it look halfway decent. Let the next guy spend you know, $3,000-$4,000 a day on these cars. And I decided, what the heck, we just went ahead and slathered that crap wherever I could reach it. The bottom side hasn't been done underneath, you know, the tube, but I just slathered the old navel jelly anywhere it would go, especially down into here. This stuff, that cleaned up pretty good down in there. Actually, you can see quite a bit of metal with that grinding stone. That helped a whole lot down there. I feel a lot better about that. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and just watch it for about maybe an hour or so. I'll come out. Right now it's coffee time. I'm going to go in the house, have a cup of coffee, and come out in about an hour or so. Well, as hoped, my old buddy Joe the welder took care of me on our little hangers here. He welded a strip along the top of each one and along the side there. Turned out pretty good. Unfortunately, though, he demanded payment this time. He would not do it for free. He told me I had to give him a pumpkin pie. This coming Friday, today is Monday. I think it's the 3rd of December. I think it's the 3rd. Anyway, on Friday we're having our little get-together, our semi-annual get-together with everything to eat. And when I bring my food there, along with everyone else's, he demanded that I bring a pumpkin pie. Last time I brought a pumpkin pie to a retirement, he really liked it. So he said, I want another one. I said, okay, well, we'll fix you right up. Now I'm going to go ahead and de-rust this a little bit and stick it down in the vinegar and let it soak for a couple of days, or at least probably a whole week. Well, that's about it for now. Before the next video, I hope to have the differential outside cleaned up. This is really a mess out here. It's going to be kind of tough. I mean, that's like, look at that, it's like concrete. What we have here is, you know, of course, dirt and oil mixed, which tells me, just from experience, what we have is a bunch of dirt and oil mixed together right here. Plus the differential was low on oil. You'll recall there was only about, what, a ½ inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch of oil in it. Behind this thing right here, I have to take this nut off. Let me get a little closer here. Behind this here and this here is what they call a pinion seal. That seal has been leaking for quite a while. That's why it's so, if you notice up here, it's pretty thin, not a whole lot of oil. But if you notice down here, it's really thick and it's got that oily look to it. So I'm going to have to remove this here. I'm going to have to remove this, pull out the pinion seal, and put a new one in. But that'll come later after it gets back, after I get it cleaned up, painted, get it back on the car, put the axles in. I'll need the axles to hold this thing from turning while I remove this nut right here. And you know, there's a little bit more to it than just removing this nut, and there's probably a wheel puller involved. I don't know. We'll see. Every car is a little bit different. But you can bet that pinion seal is leaking. So until next time, hope you enjoyed it. This is John.